So this presentation, I would hopefully try, like to dispel some myths about measuring a campaign performance on Facebook. Most brand managers or most campaigns on Facebook are basically measured based on the number of followers or the fan count that you typically have. So I have come up with some insights, some analysis, and like to share with you. So let's examine brand X. So obviously it's been pixelated because I don't wish to reveal the name of the brand. If you look at, if you see that green arrow which says 843,000, so that's a big figure, right? I mean, most brands would be happy and there'll be a lot of high-fives and just thumping about it. It is obviously a big number and something that people aspire for. But then if you just look below that, something which says 1400 or 1487, what is that? Now Facebook has introduced this new metric called people talking about. I think it was launched as far as what, October 2011, something like that. It is nothing but the number of interactions or number of conversations that are happening around the brand. Now for a brand with 840,000 or close to a million followers, is this a good number? Prima facie, if you look at it, first reaction, observation is no, it is not. It's bad, right? But let's not come or jump to conclusions. Obviously, there are some indicators. If you look at those exclamation marks for the number of followers that they have, just about 4 comments, 126 people liking this. But then let's not jump to conclusions. I'll present you with some insights, some study that I've made, and then we can then later on come back to it. Now, what I've done is I have compiled a list of 50 brands. So some of the top brands on Facebook, or some of the top brands on Facebook from the Indian context, who seem to be doing well, who seem to be having a lot of followers. I have then plotted, now if you look at all these yellow-looking dots here, so on the x-axis you have the number of followers, and on the y-axis you have the number of people talking about it. Now, if you were to plot a line, right, it basically gives you the trend line. And a little bit of mathematics, if you do, the slope of this line is actually a formula which basically tells you that if you look at this, if it says y is equal to 0.034x, what that basically means is that for, let's say, 100,000 followers, you should have about, on an average, about 3,400 people talking about you, right? So that's a certain trend that I've derived on. For lack of better words, I call this the FP ratio, but I'm sure Facebook will come up with a better term. Now, this is a performance baseline that I've derived based on the analysis. So to me, 0.03 to 0.05 is just about average performance. What that means is about 3 to 5%. For example, if you have X number of followers, and if there are just about 3% speaking about you at any point, to me that is just about average performance. That's not something that you can be proud of. If it's anything below that, then as a brand manager, you have a serious cause for concern, right? Which is why I say it's you should worry quadrant. The 6 to 8 or 6% of followers talking about you or having a conversation about you is just about decent performance. 0.09 to 0.3, which means that if you have anywhere between 9% to 30% of your followers talking about you, to me that's a good enough. And anything above that, I mean, I certainly need the number of agency, right? Because this is something that you should be extremely proud of, which means that if you have, to put it in perspective, if you have about 100,000 followers, and if you have about 30,000 people talking about you at any point, then you're certainly doing a good job. I have done, now if you do a frequency distribution here, something that we had learned in statistics in college, what is apparent is even more startling. That roughly 80% of the brands that I surveyed, and these are all top brands, right, on Facebook, roughly 80% of the brands surveyed here fall under the par to below par performance based on the analysis that I've done, which clearly means that they're just looking at followers and they're clearly missing the point. Now, with that in perspective, in that in mind, let's go back to the early example that we're talking about. Now, this brand X, so I said that, it was bad, but was it conclusive? Now, with my analysis, with my insights, if you look at the FP ratio, it is far, far below what a normal performance, average performance is. So if I was a brand manager, I would be, ducking, right? So 0.002 is certainly not good. On an average for 840,000 or for that number of followers, he should have about 26 to 28,000 people talking about him. This is just to be, safe, but he's obviously way below that. Now, if you look at the page, I mean, there are certain things that are apparent. You have one update that was on February 8th and the next update that was on March 3rd, which means there are not too many updates happening. So that's clearly one of the issues. There are some insights that I've derived based on the study, and I'll tell you certain. Let me share certain things that work or that bring alive a page on Facebook. Then that gets you that kind of engagement. So any update that is topical in nature will get you engagement, will get people talking about you. So for example, when Sachin Tendulkar scored his 100th century, you had a lot of brands talking about it and bringing it obviously in the context of the brand. So milk the moment, make it contextual to the brand. Crowdsource, I mean, we've spoken about in the past in previous sessions that involve the community, bring in a sense of shared ownership. That's what gets the page alive, and that's what gets the engagement up. Shareable content, rich in humor, humor rich in visuals. For example, the Cadbury page, you have these luscious, visuals of chocolate, which gets people talking about and sharing it. Now, here are some things that obviously don't work, and that obviously gets the engagement ratio or the FP ratio down. Low levels of involvement, or if it is just a brand broadcast, if it's just about the brand and nothing else, but the brand talking, that obviously doesn't work, and that gets the engagement ratio down. The number of updates per week clearly have an effect on the FP ratio. What that typically means is that if your updates are far below what is the average, your FP ratio comes down drastically. To me, the sweet spot is anywhere between 14 to 29, which 14 to 29 updates in a week, which is roughly 2 to 4 in a week, 2 to 4 in a day. So why does that make a difference? Because a certain number of updates, or let's say 2 to 4 or 2 to 5 updates per day, gets your updates into the timeline of your, they're more likely to appear in the timeline of your followers. But obviously don't overdo it, because then that's equivalent to spam. So hopefully, this presentation has been able to put, what true measurement is.